Yeah.
Don't even start.
In light of the recent Haunting of Hill House miniseries, I mean, for someone who digs all of their movies out of the dumpster, that is recent, fans of the original Shirley Jackson novel and the 1963 film adaptation might have been a bit confused as to the deviations from the source material. But then we remember that it could be worse. In fact, it was worse. I am of course talking about the 1999 film The Haunting. Yes, I know this film has been reviewed by better people than me, you don't have to remind me, but I felt like it was about time we had a reminder of why this film is in the dumpster. For those blessed souls not old enough to know what I am talking about, 1999's The Haunting stars Liam Neeson, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Owen Wilson, and Lily Taylor. Stephen King originally wrote a loose adaptation of the 1963 film and presented it to Steven Spielberg, but somehow this one happened instead. King's script was later expanded and made into the miniseries we now know as Rose Red. That is not the end of Spielberg's involvement in The Haunting, though, as it is alleged that Steven Spielberg actually directed at least a scene or two, but was so disgusted with the final product that he had his name removed from the credits. Did he make the right choice? Yes. We don't need to watch the film to know that, but we're gonna watch it anyway. Eleanor's mother has passed away after years in Eleanor's care, and now Eleanor's sister is trying to convince Eleanor to move out so they can sell the apartment and split the profits.
I've cooked, I've cleaned, I've mopped up her urine. You call that an unpleasant detail?
I call that things this screenwriter should have done instead of taking up screenwriting.
Do you understand that I have nowhere to go?
Her sister and brother-in-law offer that she can move in with them and be their housekeeper and nanny.
Eleanor, help me. I gotta pee.
As tempting as Eleanor clearly finds this offer, she kicks them out and puts on her mother's necklace. The phone rings. Someone is telling her to look at an ad in the paper asking for participants in a sleep study paying $900 a week. It turns out that Dr. Merrow, the one conducting the study, is not actually studying insomnia. He is studying fear, hence why the study is taking place in this unnecessarily big house with an unnecessarily big chain on the gate. Bruce Dern, Dudley, pops out in an unsuccessful jump scare and lets Eleanor in. Eleanor is totally convincing as she knocks the clearly already open door more open. Mrs. Dudley shows Eleanor to her room after another unsuccessful jump scare.
Oh my...
Don't be lazy.
Shut up, Spencer. Not sure what kind of person would find this portrait flattering of themselves and hanging at the top of their grand staircase, but then again, maybe it is flattering compared to the real-life subject.
These are beautiful.
They are. They are. They are. Mrs. Dudley makes it very clear that she prepares dinner and then leaves before dark.
We live in town, 9 miles, so there won't be anyone around if you need help. We couldn't even hear you.
Theo arrives and we know she is a stylish free spirit because she wears stylish, uncomfortable boots.
Prada. Milan, not New York.
Wait, there's a difference? I apparently have some catching up to do.
Oh, you mean you have trouble with commitment?
Well, my boyfriend thinks so, my girlfriend doesn't.
Edgy. They explore the house and come across some interesting rooms, including a door that says,
All ye who stand before these doors shall be judged.
Did you study art?
No, I studied purgatory. I was there once for 11 years.
I have a feeling we will be too. Soon they run into...
Luke Sanderson, just a bad sleeper. Basic tosser-turner.
So Luke here is supposed to be our comic relief, but... No. Dr. Merrow shows up with a couple of assistants who are kind of pointless because after dinner, a string in the harpsichord magically overtunes itself and snaps across the woman's face, and the man drives her to the hospital. After dark. After Dudley has supposedly locked the gates shut, but let's not split plot hairs. Before that happens, though, Dr. Merrow tells the story of Hugh Crane, who built the big house for his wife in hopes of filling it with children. Hopefully he consulted said wife about this children plan beforehand. All of their children died at birth, though, but the townsfolk claimed they could sometimes hear the sounds of children coming from the house. You know, the town that is too far away to hear them if they need help, but another plot hair. After the assistants leave, never to be seen or heard from again, Dr. Merrow confides in Luke that there is another part of the Hugh Crane story. Of course, Luke runs to the others right away and tells them that Hugh Crane's wife, Renee, killed herself in the house. Dr. Merrill, of course, told Luke the secret on purpose, though, knowing he would spill the beans and help set up the fear factor for his experiment. Oh, so clever. Eleanor is trying to sleep when she realizes the wooden children heads are now staring at her. Whose idea was this bed design? Creepy children staring, wooden spikes pointing down at you? What, was the store out of barbed hook blankets? In the middle of the night, there is banging on the walls, and Theo screams for Eleanor. Someone tries to break down the doors, possibly the same person trying to make cold breath in After Effects. It turns out the water pipes make loud groaning noises, and they all decide that that must be what the women heard.
Yeah, but then how do you explain the breath and the cold?
I don't know, a draft. Maybe someone left a window open somewhere.
So what about the doors shaking and almost breaking open? Are we gonna wonder about that? No? Okay. Later, the wind is blowing in the curtains and strange ghost children are swimming in all of the fabric. That's it, Eleanor. No more psychedelic drugs before bedtime for you. Some attempted comic relief from Luke leaves us with,
Yeah, I definitely got a soft spot for Theo.
I'm pretty sure you mean hard spot, but moving on. Something jumps out towards Eleanor from the walk-in fireplace. What designer came up with that brilliant idea? But they can't find it later. They do find the huge lion head flu that almost takes the men out. Gee, that's not going to prove to be a problem later, is it? Someone has graffitied the top of the stairs with "Welcome Home, Eleanor." No one will admit to painting it.
I know you all think I'm crazy. You're doing this for attention. I'm not.
For what it's worth, I believe you're a very sensitive woman, and I believe that people have taken advantage of you in the past.
For what it's worth? No, Doc, that ain't worth shit. Red footprints lead Eleanor to a secret bookcase door. The children's voices lead her to the ledger, and she seems perfectly okay with this. The ledger lists workers' names in Hugh Crane's mill, and several names are crossed out, all children's names. Eleanor now believes that Hugh Crane didn't want a family so much as he kidnapped children and they all died in his house. Of course, now they think she is sounding a bit crazy.
The house, it's trying to tell me something.
You just gotta get some sleep, okay? Come on, go to bed.
Good advice. Go to bed, movie. You're drunk. The dead children start playing with Eleanor's hair, and she realizes they are doing her hair to look like the woman in the painting in Eleanor's room. The next morning, she finds one of Dr. Merrow's tape recorders on which he says he thinks Eleanor painted the message herself. She also finds the woman in the bedroom portrait is Caroline, Hugh's second wife. For the treasure-hunting trifecta, Eleanor also finds a skeleton in the ash disposal of the walk-in fireplace. Then a door attacks her.
What is happening to her?
She's in a fugue state. Let's get her to the sofa.
You would be too if a door attacked you. Dr. Merrill finally admits that his study is actually about group fear, but now he is abandoning the study and vows to take them out of the house the next morning.
I try to understand why people act the way they act, why they feel the way they feel.
And you thought a bunch of insomniacs would give you accurate results. Brilliant! He tries to look in the ashes himself for the skeleton and can't understand why the door won't open when he is standing on part of it.
What am I doing?
Do you suppose that was a scripted line or Liam Neeson's thoughts in the middle of shooting? Eleanor is sent to bed and two hairy octopus shadows float into her room. Add that one to the list of things I never thought I would ever say. The room, glares at her? But don't worry, wooden ghost children are just as terrified as she is. You could almost say they were petrified. No, I won't apologize for that.
I will not let you hurt a child!
Now darling, explain to me the rest of this plan. The movie gets a bit confusing from this point. All of the mirrors start messing with Eleanor's reflection. She winds up in the spinning musical room where she sees herself pregnant, and the curtain ghost children ask her once again to help them. However, she has somehow now climbed her way up the spiral staircase that is absolutely not up to code, and Dr. Merrill follows her because he's smart like that. He makes it up there alive though, and they go down the other way. Wait, there was another way up there? Why didn't he go that way instead? Moving on. They put Eleanor back to bed, and Luke agrees to take the first shift in watching her overnight. Dr. Merrill gets attacked by the weird drowning statue, and now he thinks that maybe, just maybe, something might be wrong here. The room proceeds to attack Eleanor. Where the hell is Luke during all of this? No idea. Don't ask. screenwriter forgot about him. They break into the room and now the rest of them also start thinking that something might be up with this place. They also seem remarkably unfazed by the hands coming out of the ceiling face mouth. Eleanor asks Dr. Merrill why he called her to tell her to respond to the ad, and he seems confused. Neither he nor anyone in his office had ever called her. Luke tries crashing the gate with Eleanor's 20-year-old car with predictable results. Eleanor goes back inside. They chase after her.
Carolyn was my great-great-grandmother.
Wait, what? Where the hell did that come from? Luke starts getting dragged by a sentient rug over to the walk-in fireplace. Instead of rolling off the side of it, he just rides it like a dumbass. However, this does lead to the best part of the movie, the beheading of Luke Sanderson. Why couldn't this have happened sooner? The ash disposal thing flies open and everyone gets pelted with skeleton confetti. I should totally start a band called Skeleton Confetti. Eleanor fights a big bird statue with a random wooden board. Yada yada yada. No. I'm going to spoil this ending, because this is an ending that deserves to be spoiled, and I'm just saving you from yourselves, trust me. Eleanor comes across another painting of Caroline, and she is wearing the same necklace that Eleanor put on at the beginning of the movie. Wait. I get the impression that the editor mixed up some scenes and maybe this was supposed to come before the whole Caroline was my great-great-grandmother bit. That would have made it make, well, a little more sense. Eleanor challenges Hugh Crane to, I don't know, a duel? She lures him towards the purgatory door and he gets sucked in. But he has to go through Eleanor for that to happen, so she becomes a martyr for the cause with an oh-so-subtle Christ-like reference. Dr. Marrow and Theo pick themselves up, showing that this pillar is definitely solid, and wait outside until morning for the Dudleys to let them out. But why, oh why, is this film in the dumpster? This is a higher budget film compared to my regular reviews. The acting is perfectly fine. Even Catherine Zeta-Jones' American accent is rather impressive. The set is overall pretty cool, even though the pillars are kind of squishy. The special effects were debatably good for the time. It sure beats Pinata Survival Island, that's for sure. But what really buries this movie is the script. Looking at you, David Self, what the fuck is this nonsense? The character development is atrocious. Theo is our bisexual artist who can somehow afford Prada and trips to Paris and is clearly there for the sex factor. Luke is a typical bro-like character meant to be our comic relief, and maybe could have been if the writer knew what a good joke was. And Dr. Marrow is just there as a plot device to get the characters into the house in the first place. There is very little to any of these people beyond that. Our main protagonist, Eleanor, the one that should be the most developed, has little to no personality, sprinkled with feeble attempts at hinting she is a good caregiver that would randomly save a bunch of dead children, even though it's obvious the children are simply a tool to try and stereotypically add more of a creep factor to the story. This really doesn't work all that well because it was her elderly mother she had been caring for a majority of her life, and the one encounter she has with a child in the beginning gives us no indication that she likes children at all. The weird inclusion of Caroline was my great-grandmother tries to give us a stronger connection to the dead children and more of a reason for Eleanor to be willing to sacrifice herself for them. But the child in the beginning is her nephew, and she shows no strong familial ties to the family she has already. Even her giving her life to take care of her mother all of those years comes across as a burden and lack of courage to stand up for herself rather than a sense of love for her family. So she has no particularly strong ties to children or family, so why is she so gung-ho to go through all of this to save a bunch of dead children? Perhaps it is not fair to compare this film to the original adaptation or the original book, considering they did not have the rights to remake the original and had to make it as different as possible, along with the fact that it has a right to stand as its own movie. However, it is worth noting that they still could have kept the question of, is this really happening or is Eleanor just crazy, making it a better movie overall. The original indicates that basically the answer is both. While others hear and feel many things happening in the house, the book and original film focus more on Eleanor's reaction to all of these things and her interpreting different things the house is telling her as an indication that she is special and that she belongs in the house. Eleanor is definitely a flawed character, to the point that you could think of her as almost an anti-hero. She is bitter about all those years she spent caring for her mother. She resents how much her sister and brother-in-law take advantage of her and treat her like an inferior because she is not strong enough to stand up for herself, so her desperation desperation for significance and a place to belong brings her to the conclusion that the house is giving her personal messages. While it could possibly be the case, the answer is flavored just enough with Eleanor's personal biases that we don't actually know in the end. This movie, on the other hand, took the subtle mixture of psychological thriller and character study and threw it all out the window for a cheap hit-you-over-the-head horror film devoid of real context for many of its references to the source material. I could go on and on, clearly, but I'm just ranting and raving at this point, and that a lot of times gets me in trouble. One good thing about this film is it can be good for a laugh, not in any of the ways they intended, but it also hurts a lot. Yeah. Maybe leave this one in the dumpster.
These carvings are really creepy.